That's where the whole thing starts. And that matters because the early movement was never the airtight top-down machine it later became. After Charles Taze Russell died in 1916, the movement was thrown into a succession fight. Joseph Rutherford seized control and started remaking the religion in his own image. And that shift was not peaceful, and it was not widely welcomed. A lot of people did not buy what Rutherford was selling. They saw the centralization for what it was, a power consolidation move. And once that happened, the fracture was already underway. And by 1931, Rutherford had slapped the name Jehovah's Witnesses on the group, but many Bible students refused to go along with the rebrand and the authoritarian direction behind it. Now let's deal with one of Watchtower's favorite little escape hatches, the claim that Charles Taze Russell was not the founder of Jehovah's Witnesses and that Jesus was the real founder. This is from an article on their website which reads as follows. Who was the founder of Jehovah's Witnesses? The modern-day organization of Jehovah's Witnesses began at the end of the 19th century. At that time, a small group of Bible students who lived near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the United States, began a systematic analysis of the Bible. They compared the doctrines taught by the churches with what the Bible really teaches. They began publishing what they learned in books, newspapers, and the journal that is now called the Watchtower, announcing Jehovah's Kingdom. Among that group of sincere Bible students was a man named Charles Taze Russell. While Russell took the lead in the Bible education work at that time and was the first editor of the Watchtower, he was not the founder of a new religion. The goal of Russell and the other Bible students, as the group was then known, was to promote the teachings of Jesus Christ and to follow the practices of the first century Christian congregation. Since Jesus is the founder of Christianity, we view him as the founder of our congregation. That argument is designed to sound spiritual, but it collapses under basic logic. In a religious sense, Jesus Christ is the founder of Christianity. Christians believe he is the Son of God and the long-awaited Messiah whose life, teachings, death, and resurrection form the foundational basis of the faith. Now, while Jesus is the spiritual founder and the focus of the religion's theology, the earliest followers and apostles, most notably Paul, were instrumental in spreading his teachings. But that does not answer the real question, which is who founded the modern organization that became Jehovah's Witnesses. And Russell clearly took the lead in the Bible student movement and helped launch the publication work that later became the Watchtower system. What the organization is doing here is playing word games. They want to avoid calling Russell the founder because that would make the modern movement look like what it actually is. A human-led religious development that evolved out of the Bible student movement, not a miraculous drop-from-heaven organization. And the history proves it. The movement changed names, changed structure, changed leadership, and changed direction after Russell died. If Jesus were the founder in the way they imply, then why did the organization require a succession fight, a takeover, and a total restructuring after Russell's death? A divinely founded organization does not need a corporate-style power grab to keep itself alive. The real issue is that Watchtower wants the authority of origin without the accountability of origin. It wants to claim spiritual continuity with Jesus while burying the fact that the actual modern structure came out of Russell's Bible student work, then got reshaped by Rutherford into something far more centralized and controlling. So no, this is not a clean theological answer. It is a branding strategy. The purpose is to protect the organization from having to admit that it has human founders, human power struggles, and a very human history of control and reinvention. And there are a few Bible student holdouts. Those holdout groups are important because they expose something embarrassing for the modern organization. A lot of people who knew the original movement simply rejected the takeover. Take the Pastoral Bible Institute. It formed in 1918 after prominent members withdrew support from the Watchtower Society. That wasn't a minor disagreement. That was a rejection of the direction that Rutherford was dragging the movement in. Then you have the Dawn Bible Students Association, which still carries forward the Bible student legacy and continues publishing study material. In other words, the original current never disappeared. It just stopped recognizing the Watchtower as legitimate. And that should tell you something obvious. If the supposed truth keeps producing people who say, "No thanks, you lost the plot," maybe the problem isn't everybody else. The pattern is simple. Tight control breeds resistance. The more the Watchtower centralized authority, the more people got pushed out or forced to leave. That is exactly what high control religions do. They start with spiritual language, then turn structure into obedience, and then pretend every disagreement is rebellion against God. It's a classic manipulation pattern. And once the organization decided it needed one voice, one chain of command, and one official interpretation, it set itself up for endless internal conflict. You cannot build a religion on rigid control and then act shocked when people break away. Not every splinter group is a direct copy of the old Bible student movement. Some later groups broke off because they were sick of Watchtower doctrine, sick of the leadership, or sick of both. Those independent restorationist groups often keep the non-Trinitarian millennialist framework, but they reject the modern organization's authoritarian machinery. That means they're not just theological offshoots, they are protest movements. Groups like Christian Witnesses of Jah and Christian Fellowship International reflect that reality. They exist because people saw the organization drift, harden, and clamp down, then decided they wanted nothing to do with it. And honestly, that's the most honest reaction anyone can have to a system that keeps demanding loyalty while constantly rewriting its own story. Then there are the smaller doctrinal cultlets, the kinds of offshoots that form when someone decides they're the new messenger, the new prophet, or the new authority. And these groups usually start with confidence and end with confusion. A charismatic leader gets a following, starts tweaking prophecy or interpretation, and suddenly there's a new sect built on ego and spiritual cosplay. That's not a surprise. It's what happens when a movement trains people to obey authority so thoroughly that the only way to rebel is to create your own mini-authority. Examples like Christian Prophets of Jehovah and Servants of Yah come to mind. Whether the names are familiar or not, the pattern is the same. A fragmented movement producing more fragments. And the split didn't end when the name changed to Jehovah's Witnesses. They kept coming. In some places, local groups became isolated from headquarters because of war, government restrictions, or communication breakdowns. And that isolation gave them room to develop their own interpretations. In Romania, for example, some members rejected later Watchtower changes after years of separation and eventually organized independently. That alone destroys the myth of perfect organizational unity. And if one group can become geographically cut off and then refuse to return to the corporation's control, that tells you how fragile the whole system really is. The splinter groups prove three things. First, Jehovah's Witnesses are not some pristine, uninterrupted line of divine truth. They are one branch that survived a brutal internal takeover. Second, the organization has always had a control problem. The leadership keeps tightening the screws, and the more it does, the more people either flee or fracture off into independent groups. And third, the splinter groups expose the lie of unity at all costs. If your religion keeps producing dissent, breakaways, and doctrinal mutinies, then maybe your system is the problem, not all the people who have left. The Watchtower loves to act like it's the calm center of a spiritual storm, But history says otherwise. It says the whole movement has been unstable from the beginning, and the splinter groups are proof that the organization has spent generations trying to hold together something that was never truly united. So the next time someone says Jehovah's Witnesses are the one true organization, ask them why the truth keeps breaking apart. Ask them why so many people who were once inside that system ended up rejecting it, and ask them why the splinters keep telling a more honest story than the official version ever will. Because once you strip away the polished branding, what you're left with is this: a religion built on control, fractured by control, and still pretending the cracks don't matter. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.